be included in the finance bill on some of the strategies the government is putting in place with regard to the debt that is there? And will that then, would that make it easier for Wananchi in the long run?
So for how long do you renegotiate? Because they are maturing this month, they will mature next month, and the next month, and the other one. So do you keep on renegotiating? and you realize that the lenders are the same people. So you renegotiated for the month of June. July you want to renegotiate. To what end? You see, that's why we are saying there needs to be a radical approach. Are these debts even legal before we even talk about renegotiating? Are we supposed to pay?
And Joakim, what stops the government of Kenya from coming out and telling Wananchi there has been conversation around odious debt and the legality of the debt that we do have? There has been calls that pushes for forensic audit by the Auditor General to tell the country where we stand with regard to the debt. Why is it that the government does not want to come out clean with regard to that debt? What would that do to the credibility of the government of the day?
Look at the people in government. And where do they come from? They didn't just show up. They've been with us for quite some time. I remember at one time the Auditor General saying that the problem she's facing is limited information access. So she cannot actually come up with a credible opinion on the budget, on the numbers provided. That they are not providing information to her. So it's actually difficult for her to do any audit because the books are not available. And again, who are the people that are supposed to provide those books? Are they culpable in this whole story? Because when we look at today, the Minister for Treasury, John Mbadi, is part of the genesis of the whole problem. When Aden Duale brought an amendment bill on the Public Finance Management Act in 2014, who seconded that motion?
John Mbadi.
John Mbadi. What was the amendment bill about? To bypass the consolidated fund.
Yes.
That any money borrowed from outside the country
Didn't have to pass
through the consolidated fund. So if we are talking about now making it work, who do we go to? The CS for Treasury. Is he willing to engage in that conversation?
Unfortunately.
No. Who is the governor for CBK? Kamau Thuge. Who was Kamau Thuge at the time we were amending the bill? He was PS for Finance. So he's part of the problem. The Accountant General of Government at that time was called Bernard Dungu. He still works at Treasury. The people who defended that decision in every media house is now president. So when we say that government can actually deal with this issue, who is government? If not those people I've mentioned.
So because then you're going to have to ask the difficult question,
Yes.
will I want to then interrogate or investigate myself?
Yes.
Because if somebody is asking me if this debt makes... Okay, so let's split this question. Because how then do you then, suggest to investigate yourself? And we've already established that that's quite difficult. But then how do we find out if debt is actually authentic, if we can use that word? Because we know the two instances under which Kenya can borrow. I mean, we say this over and over until we're blue in the face.
Yes.
We know what constitutionally has been set out as conditions under which Kenya can borrow. Now, if you have 13 trillion shilling debts over 15 years, okay? Give or take about $1 trillion a year. That's what it looks like. And we know that some of that goes towards interest. However, the case in which you can borrow budget-wise is if you have a short-term budget deficit, 90 days maximum. It doesn't go to 13 trillion. So it's for development. Would it be too naive to say that if you look around the country and you're not able to pinpoint projects that match with the lines in the development book about where this money was supposed to go, does that suffice to say then that this debt is odious? If we have established what the law says, if we have established that money came in form of debt that was attached directly to this project, because that's how it's supposed to be done. If we cannot see the physical manifestation of this project for which this money has been tagged to this line, does that suffice to say then that this debt is odious?
Yes, it was borrowed against the law. Let me give you the latest example of a borrowing that was not used for the intended purpose. In December last year, as we were preparing for transition of grade 10 learners.
Yes.
So the government goes and borrows 27.8 billion so that it comes and helps us to do transition.
From whom?
From World Bank.
Okay.
So they borrow 27.8. So the purpose for this money is to make sure that no child pays to transition.
Yes.
That no parent incurs a cost. And some of it was supposed to be used to prepare teachers and buy facilities that are necessary for transition.
Teacher training.
Yes.
Yes.
That money was borrowed and it came. Did you see any parent not paying for the transition of their children? No. Every parent paid. The least my mother used to was calling me for my last born brother. They needed 45,000 for his transition. So why did we borrow the 27? What was it used for? Because it's on that purpose that we are going to pay for it. So they borrowed it for our best interest. They used it for theirs, but it's us to pay. You know, if that's not an example of an odious debt, then tell me what is. Because odious is illegal.
And Joakim, based off that the government knows very well that it borrowed and never used that money for the intended purpose. Whether you talk about Eurobond way back in 2014, you talk about the debt that you just talked about from World Bank. The government is unwilling or cannot, first of all, publish the debt register so that Kenyans can interrogate it, and is unwilling to give this information to the Auditor General to look at the books and give a report of that because they know they will be caught pants down. So therefore, even as we speak right now, the government then is participating in an illegality because the Constitution gives that mandate, gives all the right to the Auditor General to look at the books. That means everything else, every finance bill that has followed and every debt that is borrowed that the Auditor General cannot look at is an illegality.
Yes, it's a whole illegal system. Which means when we say in Safina that we have to forgive water, we know what we are saying. There is no hope for us here. That's why we are asking, when you shout 1 term and 2 term, then what? When you say 2 term, at least 2 term, we know they are then what? The then what's more pain. They will keep coming for what is left of us. So that's why we are asking our colleagues in opposition, then what? What are we about? How different? How do we deal with this monster? It doesn't matter who you are, what you are doing, whether you are voted in office or not, because my least worries nowadays is if we can defeat President Ruto, because that's guarantee. We are going to defeat him. But what do we tell the people after that? Because you sit on that chair the first day, friends from IMF come to brief you on what you owe them. The friends from Treasury come to brief the president on the financial situation of the country. Before you even finish the first month in office, you've borrowed illegally to pay salaries.
Yeah.
So how different are you going to be from these ones? That's why we need boldness. That's why every Kenyan should join Safina. That's where their salvation is.
Because what we're talking about when you talk radically here, always